Alright, this is probably as good a time as any just to start. We've smudged, we've grounded. Welcome into Coffee with Kelsey. If you decide to ask questions while you're in here, go ahead and stick them down in the chat. Even if you show up later and have questions or something, put that down too, or hold a question in your mind, get yourself grounded. I think today's conversation is going to be a little difficult because we are discussing emotions and authenticity. I put safety and authenticity, so we'll address emotional safety because I think that is a big one. Emotions and safety and emotions are seemingly controversial for whatever social reasons, and I don't think that that is necessarily a good thing. But it's very difficult to be authentic if you do not feel safe. If you don't feel emotionally safe, then you're not going to feel authentic. So how can we balance that out? How can we start to address safe spaces, creating safe spaces, spaces of non-judgment? And I think one of the best tools perhaps, that I've been provided in the last week is this idea and concept that one of the greatest tools that we can have is a person, a group of people, persons, whatever, a support network of non-judgmental people. So when we can express ourselves authentically and be emotionally vulnerable, it's very important to provide a space of non-judgment, to be in a space of non-judgment, because if you're being emotional and authentic and you're being judged for it, it's not energetically going to lead to the results that you want. Alright, splitting all these out, and the first thing that comes up is the Lovers. I also pulled out Divine Abundance, so we're using our Rider-Waite and our Divine Abundance, and may possibly dive deeper down into our rabbit hole. And in the meditation that I had in setting all of this up and opening up these cards, the first thing that came into mind is companionship, which makes this Lovers thing really important. And I don't want to get into like this love, like everything is sex. And it seems like those two things are synonymously interchanged in a way that is distorting our relationships and the way we relate to other people and ourselves, and leads into this area and space of control. And if we're going into this realm of control, or people are controlling your emotions or anything like that, then we are deviating from authenticity. That's in the space of manipulation. And if there's anybody out there that's trying to control the way that you feel, look out. This is a space where you need to be on guard and open up. So the other side of that, when we're talking about companionship, we have elephants here, and it's wisdom. So we're talking about an old wisdom, something that goes back thousands and thousands and thousands of years in these dynamics. And they say giving someone your complete presence is an astonishing gift. If you can be vulnerable with somebody and open up to somebody and give them that presence, it's amazing how you can transmute that energy and how you can take that emotional, energetic thing to transcend, to create shifts, right? I guess it's irrelevant as far as what I was watching, but what stood out to me, changing a paradigm is no easy business. And collectively, we're working on shifting a paradigm. We're shifting paradigms. We're going from Piscean into Aquarian. We're an Aquarian. So we go from this Piscean, masculine, I, me, mine, all for rote, no meaning into this Aquarian thing. And I don't want to get into like the woo-woo aspects or anything, right? But we're talking about feminine energies, and then we start talking about emotions. We've suppressed emotions across the board collectively, so much to this detriment, where we get things like sexual harassment and sexual assault and people who have just complete apathy towards the subject at all. And if we get into that realm of apathy, jealousy, envy, anything like that, then we're taking this opportunity for love and companionship and unity and unification, and we're just chucking it right out the window. So what? Right action, okay? Let everything that wants to go, go, and everything that wants to come, come. So we're talking about being in alignment, we're talking about energetic alignment, vibrational frequencies that come into play when you start becoming more authentically yourself, right? Okay, so Kelsey, what does that mean? What does that look like? What are you really talking about? Who cares, right? I don't need emotions. And then all these judgments and all these guards and blocks and things start coming up, and people start shutting down and tuning out or creating more space or looking for something to control. And in this space, there is no control, which is what I like about it the most. It's very fluid, it's very dynamic, it's very much about navigating what comes up in the moment and being present with that. There's no presuppositions, there's nothing pre-orchestrated or curated here, nothing in mind other than the meditations that lead up to this and the themes that keep showing up. And last week, the themes that kept showing up are all about authenticity. So again, if you have questions, feel free to ask. And when we're talking about authenticity, right, and safety within that authenticity, maybe this is kind of where things get a little tricky, right? We're talking about outrageous openness, being open, opening up and grounding in. Part of the process that I have in this space, right? Opening up to allow whatever to flow, whatever I feels, right? Then we ground that into present time, into reality, into this world, into something tangible that we can develop meaning from. So if we're talking about outrageous openness, dear love, open me to your will. Release me from my attachments. Attachments come into play with judgments and like emotional attachments, material attachments. They all kind of sync together. They're energetic attachments that are throwing us out of our alignment, right? Throwing us off. Surprise and delight me with your plan. You know what's needed, and I am open to receive. If we're going to be talking about feminine energy, there's something else that I saw in this pre-meditation space where this guy is talking about the most that he learned about women came through his daughter, or came from his daughter. And I think the bigger insight into that, it's more than words. It has to do with actions. And for his revelation was for her to feel safe, for her to feel secure, to not have that anxiety of, well, are you going to? Because when we're anxious or when we're unsure or we don't feel safe, we'll keep checking in. We'll ask questions, are you sure? Is it this? Is it that? We're looking for something, and that masculine side of us wants to come in and be like, oh no, I got it, it's taken care of, don't worry about it. And then it's like, well, what do you mean don't worry about it? Don't tell me don't, because, don't think of a white elephant. In order to not think of the thing, you have to think of what the thing is in order not to think about it, so therefore you're thinking about the thing you don't want to think about, right? His resolution and the solution to it is include her in your plan. Get her involved with the plan. If you have a plan, it's not, oh, don't worry, honey, I'm taking care of it. It's, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm looking at, I'm going here, I'm putting these pieces together, these are the orientations, this is the situation. Oh, okay, now I'm involved and I'm included in the plan. And I think maybe a lot of women are feeling that kind of collectively throughout this patriarchy, or through this masculine dominated system. We're very much dismissed. Oh, I don't need to listen to you. Okay, whatever, pretty little lady, you're emotional creatures, and if you're emotional creatures, then you don't know what you're talking about, and everything about you is invalidated, and that's not okay. Right? Validating that energy is incredibly important. When you can include that energy into the plan, then we get something more holistic, right? And then we get, okay, divine love. Divine love, inner power, right? And it goes right back into letting go. When you offer everything to the divine with detachment, talking about releasing attachments, opening up to things that are greater than anything our own ego could possibly think of. I don't want to say imagine. That's not necessarily the realm we want to go into. That's talking about more creativity, but that the logic and the reasonings and the rationalities that we hold on to keep ourselves feeling in control. And that feeling of control is not the same as emotional safety, because you're not creating emotional safe spaces, or people aren't creating emotional safe spaces for you if they're trying to control what you're doing. You begin a love affair with spirit, with yourself. Inner power, give me the courage and the power to do what must be done. Okay, it's going to take courage. It's going to take that shift. We're shifting an entire paradigm. We're shifting the ways of relating to people, which changes the ways we relate to the systems, which changes the ways we relate to Mother Nature, right? We're going back into these cycles, I believe, where tapping back into the emotions and Mother Nature and the cosmos is going to provide us with the next step in regards to evolution. I have cultural markers written down here too, and modified history, right? So things being changed, adapted, or just goes right back into that theme of what we think we know might not be real. Just because it says so doesn't mean that it's necessarily true. And again, this guy showed up for this the last time as well. One of the thoughts that I had about it after I had closed down for the day was putting down the swords, putting down the fight, putting down the conflict and the competition. Competition is another theme we're going to be talking about this week too, but I think this is important before we go into that, because we need to create an understanding of what safety means and vulnerability means before we can start talking about these competitive dynamics. I think that's really important, because people's judgments and opinions are going to get all worked up into that, and it's going to create a space that isn't safe. So we're doing some work in this area now, in this space here, in this container now, to transmute that energy to be able to open ourselves up for these ideas later on this week, maybe tomorrow or in the next couple of days, we'll see. Right? But they're turning their backs to this conflict. They're turning their backs to this, and they're looking out over the horizons into the water, and the waters are emotion. So looking into the emotional possibilities that come through this process, right? This has to do with fives. It has to do with shifts and changing and stepping into, again, a new paradigm. Okay? Page of Wands. Let me pull out a couple of them. So if I have Page of Wands, Strength, and we'll take the 3 off the top. Queen of Wands. Okay. So if we're beginning to step into this new aspect of understanding, why would we want to step into our emotional understanding? Because it gives us creative power, and it gives us an understanding and a strength, but it will take a lot of strength to get to this point where we can wield it in such a way that will deliver the results that we're looking for on a collective level. But again, it's not up to your own egoic aspects. It's more to do with that cosmic alignment. I don't necessarily want to say divine. Divine sounds a lot like divided to me. Something split, one side or the other. I like the cosmic aspect because it becomes so much more wholesome. And I think if we're talking about divine, this concept or this idea of religion comes to mind, right? Again, division, separation, containers in these spaces that aren't necessarily safe. There's an indoctrination there that we're trying to eliminate, which can be difficult, right? Okay, so stay in your lane, wield that power, put that energy forward. This came up last time too. Learn how to direct that stuff in a way that is beneficial for everybody. Because if we're talking about shifting into these new aspects, new ways of being, these consciously curated, crafted cultures, communities, right? Then we're taking all of this energy and we are creating structures, right? And frameworks, new structures to be able to build something that is unification and wholesome and good for all, right? Men and women. There's a balance in it. There's a strength in that, and it's something that's cyclical. It's cyclical in nature, and we're coming back around to something that we all know to be true. Maybe it is a truth. There's something in our human nature that perpetuates these cycles that we dive into to cultivate new opportunities, because everything we do now leads into the future, and these aspects that have led us to this point are very relative to our history. And if our history is distorted and what we have been taught is wrong and what we've been conditioned and indoctrinated into is put us into this space of powerlessness so that others can control us, then we're not doing the work that we should be doing. It's interesting to me in studying some of these ancient cultures and civilizations, there's this overarching theme or this connecting theme of these persons in chaos and evil and destruction, or just people being bad and not good or not sustaining, falling into that greed, lust, the sins, so on and so forth. And along comes somebody on a boat to teach them culture and agriculture. Okay? Agriculture. Connecting again to the earth. We are so far removed here in America, maybe other parts of the world or developed parts of the world too, from our food and from the ways and processes that these happen. We are so disconnected from our true nature, right? We want things now. We want that instant coffee. We want that drive-through meal. We want whatever it is that is loaded with as much as it is just to fuel something, right? I'm going to leave that thought out. I'm going to look at what the Seven of Pentacles says here in the book, because there's something very methodical about this. There's something very reflective about this. When we're talking about authenticity, it takes a lot of self-reflection, and it takes work, and it takes time, right? It's like planting a seed. What we're doing here now is we are planting some seeds. So this is information for you to germinate. And some sort of idea, something will sprout for you, something will begin to emerge. And when it does, you have to nurture it. Nurture that sense of self as it blossoms and grows. You have to keep it safe. I don't want to say safe from the elements. We're adapted to fit into the world. We are elemental. So it's keeping ourselves safe from these ideologies that are meant to control the way that we think, to get us out of authenticity and alignment. So a Seven of Pentacles here. Young man leaning on his staff looks intently at 7 pentacles attached to a clump of greenery on his right. One would say that these were his treasures and that his heart was there. Where is your heart? What is it that you're nurturing? People are afraid of their emotions, or just the overwhelming sense of it. Maybe it's not so much that they're afraid of their emotions, they're more afraid of what other people are going to think, or how other people are going to respond, or how other people are going to react. Because it holds some social consequences. It holds consequences for relationships, and people get very attached to these relationships, and they get very attached to these spaces and these ways of doing things subconsciously, because they're manipulated and controlled. It's conditioning, and they don't know how to uncondition themselves or recondition themselves. Let's see. These are exceedingly contradictory. In the main, it is a card of money, business, barter, but one reading gives altercation, quarrel, and another innocence, ingenuity, purgation. That's anxiety about money, too. I think a lot of people are feeling anxiety about money. Money is energy, it's currency. And so when you're taking in money from people who are stressed, anxious, unwell, uncertain, insecure, or people who are throwing money into their insecurities to generate a sense of security through material gains, then you're surrounding yourself with these things and these materials that are infused with that angst and that anxiety. Do you clean your money? Do you cleanse your money? Transmute that energy? There's something about exchange in that, right? It's not a tit for tat. It's not a, well, what do I get out of this? It's not a, well, you do all that for her and she's only doing that for you. How is that even? You know, it's not about it being even. It's not about keeping track or keeping markers or who's doing more or who's doing less than. You show up and do what you can because you can do it, because that's supportive, because you want to create safety for people, right? We want to create safety for people in these situations. Inner power. Give me the courage and the power to do what must be done. Okay, this is the strength as well. That lion heart, that strong heart, the inner power. All of this comes from inside when we're talking about emotional safety and we're talking about authenticity. We're talking about developing an inner power. This comes from within. This isn't going to come from outside of you. When you can develop this from within and you radiate at that frequency, then you challenge other people to meet you at that level as well. And those who are meant to can and will, and those who don't won't. And you have to be open and willing to release the things that aren't in alignment with your highest good, or in the highest good of all. I've got another row down here we can pull out of. It's all upside down. We've got Page of Cups reversed, King of Pentacles reversed, and then we have the World right side up. So if we want to right side up the world, right, we have to release these material attachments, and we have to release these intense masculine ideas. And no, that doesn't mean I hate men and I don't want men around and women are better or anything like that. It has nothing to do with that. There's balance between masculine and feminine within each of us, and it's not like we're pointing the figure like men are the problem, right? This isn't men versus women, me versus you, this and that, right? We're extracting the problem outside of us, and we're addressing what that issue is separate from us, so we can overcome. Okay? The whole world needs this. This whole world is going through this paradigm shift. There's so many pointers and markers that highlight the aspect of this. Justice comes through, battles, wounds, being patient. You can't fight it all. like out with the old, in with the new things being reborn. The North Star shows up not only here as far as the sun goes, we also have it in guidance. When you make divine intelligence your foundation, when you make cosmic intelligence your foundation, yes, we are talking about foundation again, because we talk about structures and we talk about framework, but we can't build a framework and develop structures until we have a foundation. So when that foundation is based off your cosmic intelligence, higher self, you finally have a fixed star to follow. Okay? It's like not following the sheeple, we're not following the leader, we're not playing this game of going to what's popular, or having other people control our emotions and our decisions and our thoughts. We're connecting into something much higher than us, much broader, and something so much further outside our imagination, so we can cultivate something pure and new and vulnerable. It's this vulnerable, childlike innocence that warms us all and that connects us all, that grows all of this magical, wonderful goodness, right? Extraordinary. There's a wild and impetuous uniqueness to you that deserves to be honored. Again, I am the universe expressing itself as the Kelsey Sweet model. You are the universe expressing itself as the model. Insert your name here. Okay? We are all one and the same when it comes to that, right? We're all this unified force, this unification, when we tap into something beyond these ideas of masculine, feminine, when we open ourselves up and become vulnerable, and we tap into these higher dimensions, higher realms of being, right? When we go into this next level and this next frequency, what are we climbing into? Oneness, uniqueness, right? Authenticity. Your authentic self isn't going to look like anyone or anything else around you, and why would it? We're individual little snowflakes here, you know, each and every single one of us. Like the universe is expressing itself in its infinite multitude areas of being, and here we are trying to homogenize everything, to keep everything the same, to try and fit in. But I'm sorry, we're not all going to fit in to the same box. There's not enough room. That tower is going to collapse. That foundation sure is strong, but if what we have built is not in alignment with that higher power, it's going to get cut down. This card shows up again. Okay? And I have a feeling that this relates to people who aren't in that level of authenticity. And thank you for the stars, and thank you for the support and showing up. It means a lot to me, and I really appreciate it. When we allow these systems and these structures to crumble, right, what comes out of it is this destituteness, this povertyness, this coldness, being shut out and locked out of the things. This is like a church window behind us when we're disconnected from that, right? And it gives us this impetus to be humble, to humble ourselves. Oftentimes we go through these big struggles in life, and we go through these big shifts and changes to humble ourselves and to get connected. And we can see it as, oh, I have nothing and I'm so destitute or whatever. But again, thinking back to these ancient cultures and these ancient tribal systems, the focus isn't on how many things you can get after catastrophe. Well, no, it's about searching for safety. And when you find safety in the natural environment, and then you can connect to the divine cosmos, that is when the temples are built. That is when these sacred spaces are built. And these sacred spaces and these temples are built in alignment with the cosmos. There's a connection, there's an understanding, and there's a patience with that as well. Right? And the architecture reflects and relates to the spiritual cosmos and the dynamics. Do I have anything else in here? What is this? This is like maybe distrust or conflict that comes out of some of these masculine systems, or these wars and these battles that come through stabbing people in the back, getting into these violations that ultimately undermine the way that we are relating. So we take a chance, and taking a chance on the world and becoming vulnerable and doing something new. And I think with this one too, this releases that aspect of control and releases the need to control the outcome in a situation. When we're talking about Wheel of Fortune, when you spin that wheel, it lands on whatever it lands on, and that's where you get to be present. That is the presence. That is the energy and the nature that you get to work with, right? So we go from this reversed emperor, whatever, masculine energy, into this upright empress energy, into this feminine energy, where we can heal and we can resolve and we can get out of conflict and we can be open and vulnerable with expressing our emotions because it's safe to do so. But people have to value that. People have to value the emotional experiences of other people, and so many people aren't. I think there's a lot of these powers that are in control that want to stay in control and want to manage the whatever, like, or instill fear in others. If you have somebody trying to instill fear in you or trying to make you afraid and intentionally trying to dominate you and intimidate you, right? They're trying to control you because they don't want to deal with their own emotions, basically. People who control the emotions of others are those who don't want to reflect on and see and express and feel their own emotions and their own feelings. And then it just divides people, right? I mean, even women can fall into that conflict where they're dividing. Acceptance, radical acceptance in the now opens the flow. Radical acceptance, right? This comes out of dialectic behavior therapy. So the words that we use, how we talk to ourselves and to others, you know, it's what programs the world around us. It's what programs the images that we perceive outside of us. Okay? Energetic clearing. Let's clear it, right? And Kali, and I love the story of Kali. Kali showed up for me in grad school, and I got to be in a group with some phenomenal, amazing women, and, you know, gentlemen as well, where we got to go to the International Leadership Women's Conference or something like that years ago, and we got to do a presentation on the power of Kali. Okay? So there's a balance here. The story of her, if you don't know, there's, for, I don't know, it's on this base level here. There's this town, there's this city, and it's overrun by evil entities, right? There's demons everywhere, and the townspeople are like, Kali, help, come in. And so in comes this feminine energy who just gets into that bloodlust, kills off all the demons and all the demons, but there's a moment there where she lacks discernment. She gets very caught up in that destruction and starts destroying more and more. All of this material plane, all of it's just gonna go into nothing. And what stops her, is it Shiva? Her male counterpart, right? He throws himself beneath her feet and underneath him. He doesn't fight her. He doesn't fight back. He doesn't come at her and try to destroy her and tear her down and make her bad, right? He throws himself beneath her feet. And before she goes to stomp down on him, she realizes, oh, this is my lover. This is my love. This is the other half of me that balances me out, and she stops, right? So when love can sacrifice itself, when the masculine can give permission to the woman to express her feminine energy, and instead of fighting back at her, can submit to her, or can be vulnerable, or can take a risk and fall beneath her feet, he must trust that she will perceive him and see him, and they will unify together in love, and he won't be destroyed. And he isn't going to be destroyed. So for all these men who are like, no, women can't be leaders, women are bad, blah, or who are just very opposed to the feminine energy coming in and playing her role, right? And being under that, supporting her. He's beneath her. He is supporting her. Because he knows that there is love and there is true love, and he won't be destroyed, and he isn't. He's vulnerable in that moment, and peace comes. Peace happens. They're both authentic in that moment. Peace comes. Ace of Cups, right? That's the hand of God coming out. This isn't the sword of truth, but this is all that cosmic, divine, loving energy. That's that emotional, flowing energy that creates this cycle, right, of purity and purification. Okay, purifying. And so if it feels like women are being really intense right now, we're purifying. It's not destroying. It's not creating, wreaking havoc. It's not out of revenge. You called us here. Kali was called in by the people to rid out the evil and the demons, and she does. She purifies. Purifies blood. Purifies through fire. Okay? To get to this emotional balance during crisis, the Holy One herself may be emptying you of fear and attachments, preparing you to receive her luminous plan. Okay? Releasing all of the attachments to hear and to be provided the plan. If you're in that safe space, he knew he was safe, right? They can step into authenticity. The awfulness is cleared out, and they allow. There's an allowing for this dance. Radical acceptance. Again, acceptance. And it's called radical acceptance because how radical is it to be in the present moment and to deny the false realities of the history, to not get attached or caught up into trying to control what we perceive to be the best for the future, right? We are allowing nature to happen as itself. We are allowing this gift to be given to us so that we can receive it. Radical acceptance says yes to reality in any given moment, so what's needed can come next. This isn't denying a reality or a person's reality, or somebody comes to you and they're upset or they're not feeling well or they're emotional. It's allowing the space for that to happen because that's real and authentic, and that's right here in this moment. And it makes a lot of people uncomfortable because they can't self-reflect or do all of that work. And then they try to control, and then it gets out of reality, and then we're playing into somebody's pseudo-reality or feeding into something that isn't real or that doesn't exist. We're being controlled by something, and that's not authentic. It takes a lot of hard work. It takes a lot of dedication. Is there anything else here? It's like seeing beyond the uncanny valley and looking into the things that are possible and the harmony that is possible. Because yes, peace is possible. We are in a bit of a crisis right now. We're in quite a bit of a global crisis, but it's not so much that it's bad. It's neutral. There's good about it and there's bad about it, but things are trying to neutralize. They're trying to balance out because there's an imbalance. There's an imbalance because there are persons that are controlling or doing what they can to try and control other aspects of other things, and it's tipping these scales, and so we have disharmony because people are attached to power, material stuff, their emotions. They're attached to this belief system that they want to keep in them, and even though it might not be real, they want to assume that it is, instead of detaching. There's detachment. With detachment, you finally feel whole inside. That unconditional love thing again, unconditional love can get us taken advantage of. So another word we can use for that, detached, compassion. This was given to me by my astrologer years ago. Detached compassion. Okay, you can have compassion for people going through these awful things without attaching yourself to them and making them all about you, or making it all about them and pointing fingers, or creating these cords that bind us and tie us to things that aren't real. They're not in present time. With detachment, you finally feel whole inside with or without the fulfillment of a particular desire. Ironically, that's often when it's fulfilled. And irony showed up in the last one too, because things aren't quite like they seem to be. Like that song, isn't it ironic? Don't you think? A little too ironic. Yeah, I really do think. It's like rain on your wedding day. So many people would be so distraught. Oh my God, it's the end of the world. Everything's ruined. It didn't turn out perfect the way that I wanted it to be. And but it's rain. Rain in the desert is purification. It's natural. It's emotion. It's beautiful. There's an opportunity there that you can't have otherwise, right? It's like a spoon. When all you needed is a knife, you can still cut something with a spoon, right? You have to look at the function, right? Get creative with the function, because a brick isn't just meant to build a building. You can do an infinite number of things with the brick. And people have been using bricks for centuries, right? These building blocks that have created these foundations and that have created these structures, right? Even in their multitude of uses, they still come up with something that is very different. Okay. These ones popped up. Strength again. In this one, we have to have strength to overcome this stuff. Let's look at what this Six Swords is and why we need that strength to be emotionally vulnerable, to create safe space. I mean, even here, there's safety, right? Safety behind this guard as they're going through the waters. So it's not like we, again, take this history of conflict and we throw it out and we pretend like it never existed and we make it something bad. It was something necessary. There are lessons that were learned. There are tools that were given. And you take those lessons with you. You take those tools with you as you traverse and go over these choppy waters of emotional expression. And those will keep you safe. Learning from past mistakes, learning from our history. And when history is distorted and we can't learn from it, that is control from a system that benefits off of that control. And I think that's why a lot of truth about history is being revealed now, why things are being exposed for being intentionally distorted in order to favor one side over another. We're learning a lot about ancient history. A lot of these things that we once thought were, turns out Not totally true. People have been doing this kind of stuff for far longer than we can even really fathom. People have been connecting to this infinite source of power to materialize something very sacred on this earth in harmony with all the cosmos for even longer than we can comprehend. Way, way longer than this feeble little culture that we have created, that we have existed within the last couple of 100 years, or heck, even in the last 1,000 years. You know, it's such a tiny little blip in time that we take for granted. 6 swords. Okay? A ferryman carrying passengers in his punt to the further shore. Journey by water, route, way, envoy, commissionary, expedient. Okay? Love. Proposing love. This is about love. There's a man ferrying what I assume to be a woman and child, right? So we take all that we have learned through this past, through this Piscean era, and we carry it forward into the next aspect. Okay? We nurture those. We protect those. Do we want to go into the Wonderland now? Perhaps. We've spent about an hour here so far. This time goes by so quickly for me here. It's really easy for me to lose track of time. Let's see if there's anything else in here. We got a couple more in here. Do I have more in this one too? No. No. I think we got the point as far as divine abundance goes, as far as tapping into that. Okay, we're done with that. Let's do a couple more out of here. A couple more out of the Rider-Waite, because I think people have a lot of questions about this. Is this, how do we create emotional safety, or how do we generate emotional safety? Being open to the differences, coming together, unifying, expressing, holding our emotions in that golden cup, high above everything else that is above at the crown chakra, and even into something further, right? And it's a coming together, it's a unification and a celebration of feminine energy, really. Okay? If that one pops out again, we can look into the book a little bit more. Again, if you pop on and you have questions, feel free to ask and put them down in the comments. I'll do my best to answer them and address them if I see them. We are surrendering our need to control, and we are allowing ourselves to feel. Okay? We're giving ourselves that North Star. We're giving ourselves something to look forward to, something to keep us going, because as we start to navigate these emotional processes, if we don't have that source, if we don't have something beyond us, if we don't have that cosmic aspect, we're going to get lost and caught into depression, emotional depression, habits. Fucking drinking comes to mind, alcohol comes to mind. We're going to bring in these spirits that are going to distort us and distract us away from this work that needs to be done and the work that needs to be cultivated. Okay, on the star here. Emotional source, grounding it in. Okay, it's a full-on connection and it's reciprocal. One feeds into the other, you know, it's very, very cyclical. Very cyclical. But she's working with water, and like in the aquarium too, like with the Aquarius. If I can recall correctly, right? It's the water bearer. Somebody pouring the water in that emotional aspect into the earth. and connecting with the earth because we're so detached. Look how much we pollute the earth. Look how much we pollute the water. And when people just throw garbage and trash out like it's nothing, they don't care. This apathy that we have is so destructive. King of Wands, Wheel of Fortune. Should we look at those? Wheel of Fortune and the Star. So we have to surrender to these choices, right? And use our intuition and our expansiveness. Sometimes learning to surrender can feel like we're dying. And I think that's why so many people don't want to do that. They're like, it just feels so intrusive. The ego learns what's hardest, to stop trying to control the whole universe. Okay? That's ego. If you have somebody who's trying to control the whole universe and the way everything works, then you're not creating safe space and you're not being authentic. You have to surrender to the flow. You have to surrender to chance and opportunity, because our choices are only limited by the experiences that, or the circumstances that we're in. And people don't have control over that. We want to say they do, or we want to blame people, all your problems are all your own fault, or you did this to yourself, or that is one of the worst things I think we can do to somebody. It is incredibly invalidating. It's so insensitive, and it's so out of ego. And I think people do this because they want to control the other person, because they can't sit in discomfort. So they make that other person's experience invalidated, or they blame them for their life experiences, and they start pointing fingers. And you can make all the right choices, you can do all the things the way that you're supposed to do, but if your circumstances and your environment are not safe, it's going to have repercussions for you that are going to be harmful, that aren't your fault. And a lot of people are experiencing aspects of poverty and pain and discomfort and disunion and separation because the environments and the containers that they've been in haven't been safe for them to be themselves. And if an environment isn't safe for somebody to be themselves, what do we do? What do they do? Leave. Go. Exit. Get the out. If it's not safe space for you to emotionally express yourself and to be vulnerable, there's no sense in trying to get somebody to try and see that. Leave. Because that person that is going to try and control you, and is going to try and belittle you and berate you because of your authentic emotional experience, it's very toxic. There's no sense in fighting it and trying to overcome it. Right? There's no sense in getting into that battle. Instead, get into a space of play. Get into a space of working with other people that are like-minded. And find these elements that are around you, these possibilities, these wands, these logs, right? These trees, these poles. And learn how to come together to create a framework and to build a structure. This could look like a battle, or it could look like people trying to figure out how to do things together. But if you get into that era, that realm of competition, or if you perceive this to be something very competitive, check yourself. Check your modalities and check those emotional triggers and what's coming up. Who along the way has been trying to undermine your success, and why? Well, they're probably trying to undermine your success and your authenticity and this truth because they don't want to see the truth. They don't want to see the light. They want to stay in this space of conflict or false sense of control. They want to stay inside of their boxes. And again, we're not here to judge. We're not here to tell people they're doing it wrong. There's rhyme and reason for it. It's consequential. It's part of the larger puzzle that helps to shape the human experience. Learn from it. learn how to cultivate around it, with it, through it. In behaviorism, through this basic behavior, if we want to eliminate a behavior, if we want to change a behavior, if we want to stop a behavior in somebody, we don't punish them. Punishment is not going to eliminate a behavior unless it's full force first time, and unless you're planning to come along and kill somebody just so that they can express themselves or have a right to exist because it somehow makes you uncomfortable. That makes you a terrible person, right? We're not doing that here. We're not going into that space. We're going to go into this space of allowing and non-judgment, right? I mean, if people are going through difficult things and they're making life hard for you, live and let live. Walk away, understand that that's where they're at on this plane because of their own challenges and their own difficulties and their own traumas that they're not ready to resolve yet. And you can't force them to resolve it. So in behaviorism, if we're trying to eliminate a behavior, we're not going to punish it. We're going to put it on extinction. We're not going to attend to it. We're going to ignore it. We're not going to give attention to the things that aren't serving us. One of the greatest predictors or indicators of reinforcing a behavior or keeping a behavior going is attention, eye contact. Eye contact is a huge reinforcer for people. You're giving attention to something, right? That's why people can be really annoying. Oh, look over here, poking, prodding, and you can look and look away. But as soon as you look, as soon as you direct your attention to that, they got you, and they're going to keep going, and they're going to keep feeding in that because you're attending to it. Like in quantum mechanics, or quantum physics, right, where these particles outside of us, they don't have feelings and relationships and things all of their own. They don't behave independently of the observer. You, the observer, feeling the emotions and having the energetic frequency that you do when attending to or looking at these particles, right? Those particles are going to respond to the conscious intention that you're giving them. And these things that are trying to get your attention because you've been attending to it and reinforcing it all along, right? You gotta starve them out. You have to deplete that energy. And when it comes to punishment, if somebody has been punished and they are trying to achieve something or they are trying to gain something or get something, what you're going to ultimately end up doing is creating deviant behaviors. You're going to create a sense of distrust or lack of communication. You're going to close down these channels, right? You're going to turn off all these things, and deviance is going to occur. So people are going to start doing things behind your back, or they're not going to tell you about things. They're still going to find a way to get those needs met. They're just going to do so in such a way that they're not going to let you punish them, because who wants to be punished, right? But if you put it on extinction and you don't attend to the unwanted behaviors, you get what's called an extinction burst, right? You'll get people throwing fits and throwing tantrums and doing anything and everything that they can, trying all these new behaviors to try and gain the same results, until ultimately they learn that no matter what they do to try to get that sort of response out of you, they're not going to get that response out of you. And the trick is, when they do exhibit a behavior that is wanted, whether it's honesty, truth, emotional vulnerability, attend to that, reinforce that, praise that, validate that, right? Because that's what's wanted. There's no sense in trying to punish things. You're not going to get what you want by trying to make other people feel bad. And people aren't going to get out of you anything by trying to make you feel bad, except for resentment, right? Or this disdain. The fool, the new beginnings, that fresh start, that naivety, right? It's not being attached to other people's emotional responses, right? We're only attending to those things that are pure, that are wanted. We're going to cultivate that. We're going to tend to that in our garden. I'm kind of curious to see what the Fool has to say about this. And he's just so blissfully unaware of any of the dangers. He's looking up towards the heavens with the flower in his hand and everything that he needs on his shoulder, and his companion by his side, right at the edge of the cliff, right around all this emotional intensity. And what is he going to do? Walk right off into it. Because there's trust, there's a vulnerability, there's a willingness, there's a heart openness. This is an open stance. If you want to trick your brain into feeling a certain way, check your body language. Your body language is going to communicate more than your words ever can, right? 85-90% of our communication, our human communication, I don't even want to say human, of our communication is nonverbal. We're picking up on all sorts of things, sight, sound, smells, textures, right? And if you come into something and you're closed and these shoulders are forward and you're blocking your heart and you're keeping things protective and you're playing small and you're being feeble, and you're in the space of woundedness and being blocked and being guarded, it's going to limit the electromagnetic frequency that your heart is able to express, right? It's going to squash and kind of limit your ability to be emotionally open, right? Things are very tight and very contained in here. Things are very controlled. It's very much like this coveted, separation. Whereas when we open up this pose, you can feel that difference in my energy just between this, if I'm doing my readings like this versus if I'm doing my readings like this. There's a very different air. There's a very different energy. And this heart center is so wide open, and this electromagnetic field is wide. It is fully encompassing beyond us. It is creating this bubble that is a safe space for us. This is our energetic field. And we can tune in and we can navigate, or we understand this toroidal energetic field around us because we are souls in a body. Our body isn't just us. We are so much more outside of that. And we can open that and we can expose that. Then we are in a space of vulnerability. And we are in a space of safety for others. You want to come into a container of people or somebody with open arms, where they're open and they are ready to receive and to hold you, right? They're creating a space for your energy to do its toroidal field thing too, right? If somebody is like this, that is not a safe space for you. There's no space there for you. There's no room in there for you. This becomes like an energetic, right? Right? Ooh. Let's pull that back. We're not going to go down that road, okay? Let's look at the Fool here. Okay, so now that we're about an hour into this, I think it might be time to shift out of this and kind of into the Wonderland. We'll kind of dive down in this rabbit hole a little bit more and get a little bit deeper into this reflection, because I think that we've opened up something here for you, but we got to dig down in there and uncover some aspect of information, or maybe pull out those seeds for you to be able to nurture. So again, if you're here and you're listening, or if you're on camera and you have a question, you can ask. Go ahead and put it in, okay? Always feel open to communicate in this space. And you guys do, even when there isn't that level of participation, there's still receptivity that is happening. So thank you for allowing me this space to communicate that and to have that for you. It makes me feel like this is whole as well. So if I'm missing anything, let me know. The Fool, 0. You want to see him? Here he is. folly, mania, extravagance, intoxication, delirium, frenzy, bewrayment. I don't know if that's a word. Reversed, negligence, absence, distribution, carelessness, apathy, nullity, vanity. It will be seen that, except where there is an irresistible suggestion conveyed by the surface meaning, that which is extracted from the trumps major by the divinatory art is at once artificial and arbitrary, as it seems to me in the highest degree, but of one order are the mysteries of light, and of another are those of fantasy. There's something about Bashar that I had seen before this too, where they're talking about imagination. Somebody had asked in relation or whatever, it's this thought that we are all magicians, which is why magician shows up in the tarot card deck too, because it's an archetype, right? So if you imagine something, magi, nation, I'm a magician in a nation. I'm in a nation of magicians, right? We are in this realm of people who are co-creating the world in which we live in. Okay? That's no secret. But I think people need the permission, or they just need that mirror up in front of them that says, whatever you imagine is something that already exists. It's pulled out of somewhere, right? If you go into the morphic resonance field where all the information of everything that has ever existed always existed, we can tap into that and we can pull that energy in and we can manifest that to create new solutions instead of trying to take these parts and pieces out of things that really no longer serve us. Let me see, is there anything else in this deck here for us? No. Okay. Alright, let's go into Wonderland. I'll try not to spend too much time here. If any of this is resonating or you want a personal reading or something like that, reach out to me, send me a message or something like that. We can have a conversation. A lot of the times I do this out of or for, what do you want to call it? Donation, which reminds me I have a reading that I need to do after this. That's kind of important. That's very important. Oh, I got too many cards here. Okay, let me shuffle here. How many am I going to take? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, let's do 5. We'll do 5 cards out of this, then I'll close it up. And then I will tap in for the next one, because I think this next one is going to be a bit of a heavy one, but that's okay. It's going to be necessary, and it's going to be very insightful. When I do this, I get a lot of insight for myself as well. This is such a healing and wonderful and magical, amazing space for me, and I love connecting with people on this sort of a level. Okay, there. Okay, let's do 5 right off the top. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so first one out, strength. A lot of strength. I think that is a big theme for this whole entire reading, is strength. It came out in all 3 of the decks. Being strong. It takes a lot of strength in order to go through this. A lot. It's not easy at all to be in that authentic power. Feelings of safety. Getting to a space of safety takes a lot of strength. Wheel of Fortune also popped out. The Sun also popped out. Okay? Sun, strength, Wheel of Fortune, taking these chances and these opportunities, to be in our brightest power, to go towards that North Star, right? To be vulnerable within a community, within these opportunities is super, super important, okay? This one also showed up for us in the other one too, the Ten of Swords or the Ten of Flamingos, right? All these swords and all these conflicts and all that backstabbing and all that trauma that you've gone through, that we've gone through, that we've collectively gone through. In some form, shape, or another, we've all gone through something traumatic. We need to work through that. We need to transmute that. We need to overcome that, and then we get another one of the cards that we had here too, of this Ten of Cups. And that wholesomeness, right? When we can overcome our traumas and we can heal and we can resolve all this conflict and get out of this battle mode and we get into our emotions and we get into holistic expression and we really value and dive into that, we find our comfort and our safety and our security. Wow! Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Like, I can't make this shit up. I hear that a lot in a lot of these other there's no way I could. This is all by chance. This is all divinatory. This is all like you seeing me shuffle and pulling out the same things because these points need to get across. Okay? I do a lot of reflection in hermit mode, right? Standing up here with my light on. And I've had to learn over the years not to come down off this mountaintop, not to try to bring my light down to these other levels to bring people up with me. I've had to learn that I've had to sit here in my own power, in my own space, and those who are ready and are ready to ascend and are looking for that light, they'll show up. Every time they do. Every single time. Should we look at what these have to say just for shits and giggles, and then we'll close off this space? I opened it to the sun first, so we'll look at that. Alice meets Humpty Dumpty, who sits on a wall, holding a banner of unknown origin. He has just given himself a compliment, and so is allow it to happen, allowing Alice to shake his hand. The king has promised to bring around all the horses and all the men if Humpty Dumpty should fall from his perch. Okay? Know that if you extend your vulnerability and your connection and your meeting and your relationships and you make these connections, know that if you fall and you come apart or you fall into pieces through this emotional stuff, that there is a support network there for you. There is a community there to help you, to support you in your emotional vulnerability. You gotta reach out though, okay? Because if you're gonna fall and you're gonna break in your own alone space and you're not gonna reach out, and then you're gonna go down this road of destruction and self-loathing, or even into the unspeakables. I'm sorry that you feel so lost and so disconnected, or I'm sorry that emotional expression has been so punished across the board. But you can overcome this wall. You can climb up over those blocks and those defenses and know that there are people reaching out. That's why I do this. The hand is extended, so if somebody's coming up over that space, I can help them up over that. And if you fall and you break, or we break and we fall together, if there's some sort of mess that is created, there is a community of people that is here to support us and to fix it and to heal us and to hold us. Okay, we are cultivating conscious co-creative communities and culture. This comes through extension and reaching out. Okay. What else do I have here? I'm really curious about the flamingos here. A pain that feels like a violent death. Okay, this emotional work and the pain and the emotions can feel like death, but that's your ego. That's your ego, and sometimes you gotta allow that ego to die off so it can be reborn. You gotta put that ego on the back burner so that the higher self can come into mind and can come into your toroidal field, into your energetic field. a mental death, okay? This is just a new way of thinking. It's a new way of perceiving the world, and it can feel very catastrophic and very challenging when you begin to feel. It can be very overwhelming and very shocking, right? Like, it's intense, but it's important. And the longer you've shut that connection off, the more intense that's going to feel, but it's natural, it's normal, and it's okay. It's part of the process. Ruination, mental anguish, guilt that cannot be reconciled, trouble and misfortune, okay? A victory won at excessive cost, a moment of power. Just to have that moment of power, that one moment of just like ego validation, or like, it's not worth it. It's just not. It's so temporary and it's so limited, and we want something that's permanent. That's where that emotional safety comes into play, is having the permanence, that allowingness to have a permanent space in the human connection without feeling like we have to be or do or have something different in order to fit in, okay? I like the interpretation of this out of this deck. Should we look at these? I suppose. Thanks for sharing, says the note on the thing. We'll share it, and then I'll close it off. And then I'll go into the next part of my day, because I think I am ready. I'm ready. Okay. Ooh, okay. Wheel of Fortune. The dodo, the mouse, an owl, the eaglet, and a guinea pig have just completed a caucus race, whose stopping point is in the hands of fate. All opportunities are present, and many will be grabbed and held. Good and evil, beginnings and endings, all things that are, that were, and that are yet to be are on the wheel of life. It's part of it. If we are the universe expressing itself in the infinite, whatever multitude of ways that it can be and express and be seen, it's going to look like a lot of things. There's a beauty in all of it, right? But we need to bring in a balance. We need to bring in this sense of safety and harmony. And that takes work, and that takes courage, and that takes strength. Let's see. Where am I? Birth and death. Anything unusual or beyond conscious control. Okay. What is it? Something like 90 whatever % of everything we do is unconscious or subconscious. That conscious control aspect that humans have, it's such a small fraction of our experience. It's like less than 10%. 5%. We're maybe conscious of 5% of things. And in that 5% of consciousness and understanding, we're trying to control the whole universe. Like, you gotta be kidding me. There's so much more that is going on and that is out there outside of our conscious awareness. But that's just it. Just because it's outside of our conscious awareness doesn't mean that subconsciously or unconsciously we aren't aware of it, or we aren't able to tap into it, and we aren't able to access it. We are. Okay? We have to do the work to do it. Beginning and the end, resolution, luck, going forward, right? There's just so many things. Are you going forward? Are you retreating into trouble? Positive or negative, depending on the surrounding cards. Okay? There's bad luck out there. There are detrimental forces out there. There are these experiences out there, and they just happen. You have to radically accept that shitty things just happen. And we have to accept that sometimes some people go through things that are way worse than other people. And we have to radically accept that some people just probably aren't going to struggle. Some people are going to have rather easy lives. But not one is any better than the other. Not one is any more important than the other. They're all necessary in order to become more conscious of what is going on. And when we step fully into conscious energy and become consciousness itself, what then does that look like? What is a world of that nature, of that intensity? Right? We can imagine it. We can perceive aspects of it. It exists somewhere out there in the world. Where is this card? Do I need to look at strength, or is strength pretty much... No, this is important. Okay. The lion and the unicorn are engaged in mock combat. The lion wears glasses. The unicorn appears to be winning, but the animals are actually equally matched. They each do what must be done for the sake of their own prestige. I mean, you just do what's in your inherent nature. When you're authentic and in yourself and you do the things that you need to do, then there you go. That's not giving you permission to do really shitty, horrible things and to encroach upon other people's rights and to cause harm and pain and intentionally distort and can try to control other people. That's not what I'm talking about here. Okay? This does have control of a situation, but we're talking about emotional control and emotional awareness. And emotional control isn't just keeping yourself happy and keeping yourself contained. It's feeling in the moment, in the presence of whatever emotion it is that you're feeling, and knowing that at your core, you're rock solid and you're in control of yourself. And yes, that emotion that you're feeling is validated, and yes, it gets to be expressed. And control that so it doesn't encroach or step on or go too far one way or another. Okay? Flow with it. Allow it to happen. Allow it to process. Accept it for whatever it is and then transmute it. Feel all the feelings and just understand that this human experience is incredible. Okay, if it takes shit to make bliss, then I feel pretty blissfully. And if life's not beautiful without the pain, then I'd rather never even see beauty again. Okay, you have to have one to know the other. We live in a world that has polarity to it. One side to the other side, so that we can find common ground and balance. When we get to the extremes of either side, or we start pitting one side against the other, then we get conflict. And the only way to not have that conflict is to have that radical acceptance and allow the things to be the way that they are authentically meant to be and embrace them as they are and work with that to find the solutions. Okay. Where are you, hearts? This is our last one, and then I am done here. I'll smudge it out for us. We can ground it in. You can leave whatever energy you want in this container, and we'll transmute it together, okay? Where are you? Right here. Home and hearth. Serenity of a familiar place. All that comes with family and friends. Someone looking out for the querent's interest. Okay? If you have any sort of violence within the home, if you have any sort of false ideologies, false hearts, manipulations, if there's any sort of petty jealousy and rivalry or any sort of loss of friendship, you're not in this energy. Okay? You need to turn that frown upside down, Charlie Brown. Right? And get into this space of well, I don't even want to call it happiness. I just want to call it emotional safety and authenticity. Okay? Authenticity is a way more powerful energy than just love. Love is important, yes. But we can't just go around being like, love and light, love and light, love and light. We have to be authentic. We have to work through the shadows. We have to alchemize these things. We have to figure out what is hidden, and we have to expose all these darknesses that have been hidden from us for so long. You know, you repress it, eventually it's going to pop out somewhere. Okay? So let's allow it to come out as it's coming out, and we'll address it as it's coming out, and we'll navigate it, and we'll accept it for what it is, and we won't try to project and control the outcome for the whole aspect of the universe. We're going to allow whatever to happen, and we're going to let that experience show us that what we think and believe for ourselves is so limited. And we can open ourselves up to these broader opportunities and these greater opportunities. Then we can surprise ourselves as far as what humans are capable of doing and what we're able to accomplish. It's a lot of work. Do the internal work. Do the internal healing, okay? Let's smudge this out. Ground this out. Get your feet on the ground. Let's breathe in and out. Sync it up. This is a great way to get in touch with people in a group around you. Just breathe in sync with each other at least 3 times. Just breathe together and get on that same frequency. Create an energetic container through breath work. Okay, let's do number 2. Breathe in and breathe out. One more. Breathe in and breathe out. Okay? Reach out. Do what you need to do. Okay? Let's do this. I love you. Thank you for showing up in this space and being here with me. I really appreciate it. I value it. It's so helpful, not only for me, but I hope for other people as well. I get great feedback here. And I'm beyond words for that. I really am. I'm just so grateful. So grateful. Okay. Right? It's a lot. Thanks again. Reach out to me if you need me. If not, I will see you either tomorrow or within the next couple of days or something like that. We'll talk a little bit more about authenticity. Okay, bye.